As basketball fans, we always try to reminisce on the good old days. Just reminiscing how your favorite player used to dominate in his prime. This may vary depending on how old you are, but these star players that we reminisce about give us inspiration. Maybe you tried to copy their moves at some point, or if you're trash and you don't like to play basketball, you could just live through them. It's a win-win. But when it comes to the NBA, it has a weird history of certain stars who were dominating the game, but now we don't talk about them as much. Either they just don't get any media attention anymore, or they just don't perform like they used to. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 players who are forgotten stars, even though they are still in the NBA. So let's get right into it.
2-second difference between the shot clock and game clock. Thomas on the drive, pull-up jumper, it's good! Isaiah Thomas gives the Celtics the lead with 2.4 remaining. 13 fourth quarter points.
Coming in at number 4 on the list, we have Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is really the definition of heart over height, and that's why everyone liked him. He was always the smallest guy on the court, but this guy was fearless, man. There's only a couple of 5'9" players that represent smaller players the right way, and the first person you think of besides Isaiah Thomas is Nate Robinson. The funny thing is that they both went to the same college. Nate Robinson is a little bit older than him, so he became somewhat of a mentor to him. They went to the same school, and they have the same passion of proving people wrong. What are the odds of them being so close? Small world, huh? No, I'm just playing around. Much respect to those guys, for real. But Isaiah Thomas was originally drafted to the Sacramento Kings in 2011, and he was a pretty decent point guard. Nothing too special at the time though. The big change in his career didn't happen until 2013, when he was traded to the Boston Celtics. And this guy just caught fire out of nowhere. No one could have saw this coming. He became one of the most talked about players in the league overnight. He was putting up almost 30 points a game along with 6 assists. And another thing no one could have saw coming was that Isaiah Thomas almost won MVP. He was even knocking down so many clutch shots that he got the name King of the Fourth Quarter. And people don't just throw that name around. He was on top of his game, but this is when everything changed. He led the Celtics all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were facing off against LeBron, and you know how that goes. You're gonna lose. But unfortunately, he had received some terrible news about his sister passing away. I can't even imagine what was going through his head at the time. It's just sad. And around the same time, he had a hip injury, and it was gonna take some time off the court for him to rehab. And soon after this emotional roller coaster he was having, the Boston Celtics ended up trading him away to the Cavaliers. And ever since that happened, he hasn't been the same. He was just about to sign a max contract deal, but now he is bouncing around from different teams. Life is unpredictable.
Cousins for the win. Yes, it's all over. Cousins wins it at the buzzer.
Coming in at number 3 on the list, we have DeMarcus Cousins. I really feel like people forgot what DeMarcus Cousins used to do. Everyone just remember the performance he had when he played for the Golden State Warriors. But he was way better than that. When he played for the Sacramento Kings, this guy was unstoppable in the paint.
Cousins gets a touch. Somebody helps out. Trying to plow in. Oh.
You can't name one center at the time that could consistently lock him up. Being a bully in the paint, having guard skills, and knocking down shots, there wasn't much you could do to contain him, especially if he got hot. He was a 3-time All-Star, and he won an Olympic gold medal with that 2016 USA team. And to add on to all of that, he was the second leading scorer of all time with the Kings, along with the most rebounds in the franchise. He was playing exceptional, but he was missing something important. They weren't winning. They just didn't have the right pieces at the time, and he was getting frustrated. He wanted out of Sacramento, and he wasn't silent about it. He let it be known after a while, and eventually he was traded to the New Orleans Pelicans in 2017. With the Pelicans, he was basically doing the same damage he was doing with the Kings. He was just a walking double-double. But this is where things started to go downhill for him. He ended up having to get surgery for his ruptured Achilles. He had some injuries in the past, but this was a different ball game. An Achilles injury could really be a determining factor on if you will perform to what you're capable of. And this injury really scared away a lot of teams from signing him to a max deal. So in 2018, he signed with the Warriors for the 2018 through 2019 season. He figured he could help them win a ring and get some more value so that he could finally get a max deal for a team. But things didn't go as planned. He was decent, but he wasn't playing up to his expectations. And by the time the playoffs came around, he ended up tearing his left quad. Things just wasn't going his way at all. He was able to come back during the finals, but he wasn't that much of a factor, and Toronto Raptors ended up winning the championship. All the goals he had set during the beginning of the season was destroyed. The next season he signed with the Lakers for a fresh start, but he didn't even make it to the preseason. He had tore his ACL in practice. Everything is going wrong for DeMarcus Cousins, but that happens sometimes. Hopefully he will be able to bounce back from this.
Timeout, you almost have to go for the three.
Lillard to Aldridge. Lillard. Batum. Aldridge for the tie. Got it! His first three of the season.
Against Vince Carter.
Matthews got to get it in. Aldridge for the win. He's done it again. He beat Dallas at the buzzer last.
Moving on to number 2 on the list, we have LaMarcus Aldridge. Now LaMarcus Aldridge's case is a little different because he didn't go through any injuries that messed up his ability to perform. During his days with the Portland Trail Blazers, he was a completely different impact player than he is now. Keep in mind, when he was in his prime, the center position in the NBA was completely different. It was more of a hard-nosed, beast in the paint type of league. There wasn't a lot of centers playing with finesse and knocking down shots like that. LaMarcus Aldridge was a part of that small group of skilled centers, and he could still be a bully in the paint when he needed to be. He made 7 All-Star appearances, and we considered him one of the best big men in the league at the time. And Damian Lillard was a rising star. That 1-2 punch was going to be a problem once Dame developed, but unfortunately time just wasn't on his side. We were never able to see what they could have been because during the 2015 through 2016 season, LaMarcus Aldridge signed a deal to play with the San Antonio Spurs. And ever since then, you don't really hear about him anymore. It's not that he plays trash now, it's just that he doesn't get the same media attention that he once did. Something is weird about the Spurs organization. You never really hear anything about them, but they always have a winning team. They just fly under the radar. Greg Popovich just be having his team on lock. Just think about it. We never heard Kawhi talk until he came to play for the Raptors. That's why everything he said was so funny, because we just wasn't used to his voice.
I don't even know where you're sitting at.
And last but not least, number 1 on the list, we have a similar case, and that's DeMar DeRozan.
That's 25 and a half. DeMar DeRozan, 6 to go, got all the way to the bucket.
We all know about his story. He is the reason the Toronto Raptors are even in the discussion now, honestly. He helped build them from the ground up along with Kyle Lowry and a couple other key pieces. But DeMar DeRozan was the face of the franchise. Even though it was called LeBronto at the time, they were definitely a contending team. But then the big trade happened. They traded their franchise player to the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard. At first, people didn't respect this move from the organization. After all DeMar DeRozan did for them, they felt like they were just throwing him away. But that's the NBA, it's a business. And plus, Kawhi Leonard had been out for an injury for a while when he was with the Spurs. So I think people really forgot what he was capable of, but he quickly shut that up. That same year, Kawhi led the Raptors to their first championship. And now we don't even question if it was a good move. But that wraps up this video. If you guys feel like I forgot someone or I was wrong at any point of the video, let's get a discussion going about it down in the comment section. Peace.
I pop a pill and I know that they dangerous. Soon as I'm bustin', I get really dangerous. We in the whip and my homie Hispanic say he tryna slide. Now you talking my language. Used to shop at the swap, now get fly on it daily. They see all this money, just know that I'm saving it. I overheard when the big homie say it. Them boys ain't for play, they be pulling up blade and shit. Make them an angel. You felt the bullets, they coming from different directions and angles. The phone is big, so I call it a cannon. I don't need directors to tell me it's action. I'm drunk, man. Put my life on the line with my Glock in town. Why not? But I swear it ain't funny. They want here for the grand, but they here for the shine. Now they mad, they don't get nothing from me. I don't never ask for nothing. Everybody